I appreciate the invitation of having the opportunity to come here and tell you what we are doing. I always respect a lot the state of Nebraska. Even when I was living in Argentina, I always look at Nebraska as one of the most progressive and proactive states in the United States. Most of the information that I always read about new things coming out, they came from University of Nebraska, so it's a real pleasure for myself to be here. As you heard, I mean, I've been in the cattle business for a long, long time. I started back in Argentina on a cow-calf operation. Then I had the opportunity to work for cactus feeders in Argentina, running a Feedyard. And then I came to the States to keep my career here with the company. And this opportunity showed up, that is the integration between a Feedyard and a cow-calf operation. And I had the privilege of being in charge of this, and it's a really good opportunity. I'm going to give you a little frame of how the company made the decision to start this process. We are in a situation in the industry with one of the lowest cattle populations in the last 50 years. Even when we are starting to rebuild the herd, we are still on a low number compared to several years ago. We lost 35 million head of cattle in the last 39 years, and that includes dairy cattle and beef cattle. And the main reason for the decline, as we heard yesterday, are several of them, but the alternative uses of the land is one of the most important. There are people out there that can pay a lot more money for our land than we can pay by producing beef. So we are competing with a different person outside. There are some interest groups that want to keep the land from production because they have a different goal than what we have. They think that preserving the land for humans is more important than feeding the world. We have a different concept. We had a really bad drought between 2010 and 2013 that make a lot of cattle to get out of the system. And we have an aging cattleman population. We are all getting older. The new generations, they don't have the same goal that we had when we were growing up, and that is keeping a lot of people from getting back into the industry. As a result, we have a shortage of feeder cattle. Our feeding facilities has been running empty or sub-occupied. Several feeders have gone out of business because they didn't have the capacity to keep up with the price of the cattle. That raises the calf price and the stocker price, and even when now the price is lower, if you compare that to 5 years ago, we are still a lot higher than where we used to be. And that ends up in negative feeding margins. I mean, during a good part of 2014, the feeders make a lot of money. All the money we made, we gave it back in 2015, and we are still losing money. So the equation of feeding is really tough, and mainly because there is not enough availability of feeders out there. On that frame, the company made a strategic decision that was to develop a cow-calf operation on a confined environment. Our first idea was, okay, we go out, we buy cows, we have 10 different yards, we can add between 5,000 to 10,000 cows to each yard, and we will end up with 100,000 cow-calf herd, just as a part of our normal operation. To test the idea, we went in 2011 and we bought 1,200 cows, bred cows in different sale barns around New Mexico and the south part of Texas, and we sent them to one of our yards. We started running them there, and we found out that our first idea was a really bad one. The guys in the Feedyard, they have a different mindset. The goal is to produce beef every day, and we sent it to one of our only company cattle Feedyard, only steer Feedyard. So the change in mentality was really hard. And the facilities were not ready for it, the guys were not ready for it. We had a really bad experience. By then, Syracuse Feedyard, one of our facilities, was getting into a situation where we needed to put a lot of money, like Kelly said yesterday. We had to make a big investment to put it at the same level that we had the rest of our facilities. The size of the yard for that part of the country is kind of small. So the company decided to don't do the investment and transform that yard into a cow-calf operation. So we dedicated 1 yard to that goal. The goals that we had when we started were testing different feeding and reproductive ways of doing things. see which one would work the better, develop production protocols that we can replicate in different facilities. One of the things that we are good in the company is to producing things that can be repeated in different places. If you go to one of our yards, all the other yards, they will look alike, and we will do things in almost the same way with some personal differences according to the manager, but the principles are the same. And we wanted to produce weaned calves they have a strong immunity and really high quality from the genetic point of view when we go to growth and quality. And the final goal is to improve the genetic composition of our cow herd. The cows that we bought 2011, we were in the middle of the drought. Everybody was trying to reduce the herd size. They were selling bred cows, and if you have to do that, what you're going to sell is not the best cow that you have. Usually you will try to get rid of the one with teeth problems, the one that is mean, the one that is ugly. So that's what we bought to start. It was a really good price, but that's what we bought. The Feedyard Syracuse is a 40,000 head feedyard for finishing cattle, and our goal was to transform it in an 8,500 head cow-calf operation. It's an old feedyard located in the southwest part of Kansas with really good slopes, really deep pens. So when we give enough bank space to the cows to eat on a limited system, we also give them a lot of space on the back. So it was a really good fit for the operation. You have different production aspects when you get to a cow-calf. Nutrition is one of the most important. It's not the most important, but it's one of the most important. Feed costs represent 80% of our cost of production. So if we handle nutrition right, we handle a lot of the cost of producing a calf. We have a limit feeding program, as Jason said. For us, it's the only way to handle that, because if you give them ad libitum access to feed, they are going to gain body condition up to 9. They keep eating all day long. So we have a limit feeding program. The reason for that is to control our cost and also to be more effective on delivering the kind of nutrient that the cow needs on each one of the physiological stages of the cow. We have only one ration for all the breeding herd. We don't have different ration according to the phase that we are feeding. It's only one ration, and what we do is we change the amount that we feed on each feeding phase. We have 3 feeding phases. One is when the cow is pregnant and in the middle of the gestation. Another one is 60 days before calving, and another one is when the cow is calving and lactating. On the beginning, we started even feeding the same ration to the calves, but we saw that we had an opportunity to be more efficient on the calf side, and that mainly happened after a big storm that we had. We ended up with a bunch of orphans because the cows were looking shelter and they were calving and leaving the calf there. So we were going there in the middle of the storm, collecting the calves, bringing them inside, warming them up, and when we tried to get them back, the mama was gone and it was not finding the calf. I had a calf ranch that is like 5 miles away from us, so I talked to the guy and I said, hey, can you take care of our calf? And he said, yeah, no problem. We are going to give them back to you when they are around 300 pounds. Say, okay, no problem. We did that, and when we brought back those calves, we were early weaning some of our calves at the same time. And we found out that at the same age, the calves that came from the calf ranch, they weighed 25 pounds more than our calf. So, and the alfalfa hay that we use for the calves. When you develop the nutritional program on a cow-calf operation, there are several factors that you have to consider. And one of the most important one is by confining the cows and limit feeding them, you have a high effect on the amount of requirement that cow will have. By confining the cow and not having the cow to walk 2 or 3 miles to get grass and water, staying there and just walking some yards to go to the feed bank and then to the water tank, and also not having to do the process of harvesting the grass and reduce the total requirement of the cow. And the limit feeding has also an effect in 2 different ways. One is on a metabolic way, different metabolic paths develop in that system that are more efficient, and also there is a reduction in the size of the organs the internal organ of the cow, reducing the total maintenance requirement of the cow. We feed our cows based on that table when they are dry, dry and gestating in the middle of the gestation, just enough to keep body condition score for a 1,200-pound cow. Our cows weigh around 1,300 pounds, and when we feed that ration, we still have a gain in body condition score. So that is telling us that the table that we are using, they are considering more requirement than what our cows really have when they are confined. Ingredient flexibility is a really big deal. As I said, 80% of what we spend is feed. So if we have the availability to go around and find ingredients that are cheaper in sometimes during the year, on the way that Jason said, considering the cost of the nutrient, not just the cost of the feed, we should have the capability of doing that in order to keep our feed costs down. In order to do that, we have to be really careful about the kind of equipment that we have. If we have a kind of equipment that cannot handle a high rapid ration, we will be in trouble. If we have a piece of equipment that is not really good handling some concentrates or some wet product, we will be limited on what we can go out and find to feed our cows. We have two different systems. We have just a traditional auger mixer, and then we have a vertical auger mixer. And the vertical auger mixer is the one that gives us the most flexibility. The bank space allocation, that's a really important point when you are limit feeding. The cows, they compete really heavy for the feed, so we are giving them between 30 to 37 inches of bank space to be sure that all of them access the feed. And if you don't do that, you will end up with a lot of variation on the body condition score on the pen. You will have cows that get up to 7 and 8, and cows that are going down to 3, and that depends on how aggressive they are. So it's really important to keep it like that. And it's also a tool that allows us to stock the pens in a different way according to the phase that the cows are. When the cows are lactating, we give them 37 inches. When the cows are dry and bred, we give them around 18 inches. And that allows me to move cattle around and get some free space to do some other things inside of the yard, like backgrounding cattle for our other yard, so increasing the amount of revenue that we have in the system. The calf access to feed, that's a really important deal. And we haven't found the exact answer for that. We are testing it, we are proving different systems. Like Jason said, if you want your calf to eat when you are feeding your cows in the same feed bank, that's not going to happen. What is going to happen is the cows are going to step on top of the calf, they are going to break legs, you're going to end up with problems. So you have to allocate a part of the bank space just for the calves. And then you have to be careful to see if that calf is high, is big enough to have access to the feed, because the normal feed banks are too high for a calf or too deep for a calf. So those kind of things you have to take a look to. We developed some crib feed areas that indeed they are not crib feeding because you are not supplementing what they graze, you're just feeding them. This is the first idea that we had. These are structures that we use for shade for the calves, and only the calf can go underneath. The cows are too high, and we build these gates to get them access to a section of our feed bank. It's kind of expensive, so the picture is not really good, but this is a hot wire fence that is taller than normal, but allows the calves to go underneath and get access just to a section of the feed bank for them. And we also dropped the banks. We took the stands out of them and we dropped them to the ground, so it's low enough for them to eat even at an early age. The way we came out with this idea was we were in the middle of a calving season and we had some diarrhea issues, so we were pulling the pairs that were having some diarrhea problems and putting them in a different pen. And that pen was adjacent to a calving pen, so we ran a hot wire fence in the middle of the pen to keep them apart. And I was coming around with a guy, and the calves were going underneath the hot wire fence, and the calves were staying in the other side. And he said, hey, that's a really good idea for building a crib feed area that you have came up with. And I say, no, that's not the intention, but That's how we started doing this, and it's working. We are trying to make it safer and better every day. Reproduction is the most important factor in any cow-calf operation. If you don't get the cow bred, you don't get anything. You don't get a little more bred a cow or a little less. It's a yes or no. So it's a really important factor. One factor that you have on a normal pasture operation is you have a lot of nutrient volatility. I mean, your nutrition to the cow depends a lot on the weather, depends a lot of how much rain you get, what part of the year you are on, and that kind of situation goes away on a confined operation. You are responsible for the feeding of the animal, so you can provide the nutrients that they need in each phase exactly as they need it. So taking that nutrient volatility away allow us to get reproductive goals that are set and safer than in a normal operation. On the beginning, we were having a 67-day breeding season. Now we are going into a 45-day breeding season. The main reason for that is to concentrate the calving, try to keep the age of the calf as close as we can, and reduce the time that our guide has to be taking care of cows. As we get into the calving season, all our guys are pretty excited about the process. They are all fully engaged. As you go forward into the breeding season, everybody starts getting tired, especially if you get a storm in the middle, and the attention starts going down. And we get to a point where the guys are starting to pay more attention to the calves on the ground than to the cows that are pregnant as they are starting to calve. So the idea is to reduce that window, make it shorter, try to keep our people sharper, and try to keep the age of the calf pretty similar so we don't run into health issues as we go into the calving season. When we were having a 67-day breeding season, we were running around 94% pregnancy. We are running lower than that because of our shorter breeding season. We want 80% of our females calving within the first 30 days, and we are getting there. And we have been calving around 24 months of age. And this year we are testing a group that we bred them when they were 11 months old, and they are starting to calve in August, September. So we will see how the rebreeding after calving at that age works. But if we can do that, we are saving 4 months of feed on a cow before they start producing. So if we don't have a consequence in the future, we will push for this. We assume that we are going to get around 8 years of productive life on a cow, so we are going to get 8 calves out of every cow. That's a normal picture, situation of a pen. They are open, dry lot pens. They don't have any kind of roof or anything like that. The weather in that part of the country is different than here. Our winters tend to be dry. We have some snowstorm, but nothing compared to what you get. And our summers are really hot, but really dry. We never go above 17, 20% moisture, so it's a different situation. We have 3 different breeding seasons, and the main reasons for setting our breeding seasons, they are relating to our calving moment. We try always to calve in the part of the year when the weather is milder, when we have less chances of having a big storm or having a 115-degree day. So we try to stay away from the winter and away from the middle of the summer. Right now we are breeding cattle in May and June. That's the main goal, is to produce bred female for the cooperator system that we are developing, and also for sale of bred females. That's a market that we have. We have several customers that like the product that we produce, so we are trying to get that breeding season mainly for these 2 goals. Then we have an August and September breeding season. That's the goal, to calve in May and June. And then we have a December and January, so we will be calving late August, September. These 2 are the only ones that calve inside, because if I try to calve this inside in the middle of the winter, my calf survivability will be less than 50%. We breed them in 2 different ways. One way is using fixed time AI and then clean up bulls. The one of the advantages of the confined cow-calf system is it's easy to handle cattle. Everything is close. It's easy to move them from the pens to the processing barn, get them bred, and go back. We are running this year around 4,500 heifers that we are breeding in 5 days, and all the cattle movement is done by 4 guys. And then we have 2 guys inside of the processing barn, and ABS provide all the technicians. But with only 6 persons, we are able to handle that volume of cattle. If we try to do something like that on a ranch, it would be impossible. The area that we would need to do that would be incredible. We have 2 ways of synchronizing the cows and the heifers. One is for the heifers. We can use MGA on the feed. We can feed them for 14 days. MGA at 0.5 milligram per head per day. Then we withdraw the MGA from the feed, and 19 days later, we apply a prostaglandin shot, and then 72 hours later, we breed them. That's the cheapest way to do it, the easiest way to do it. We only need to run the cattle twice through the chute, one to give them the prostaglandin shot, and then another time to AI them. We get around 55 to 56% pregnancy doing that. And then we get to the cows. MGA is not labeled for cows to synchronization, so we cannot use it on a legal way, so we cannot use it. So we use a CEDAR system. It's a 7-day co-sync system. It's a lot more expensive. The total cost is around $12 to $13 according to the price that we can negotiate. And it takes us 3 runs of the cows through the chutes. And on top of that, those cows, they have babies on the ground. So you have to go in there, separate them, sort them out, run them, get them back to the pen. Then 7 days later, you have to bring them back again, pull the CEDAR, again, take them back to the pen. Then we have to bring them between 60 and 66 hours later again to the processing barn to AI them. So it's a pretty complicated system. What we usually do is when we put the CEDAR, we sort out the calf, put the CEDAR, get them together, they go back to the pen. 7 days later, we take them out, sort them apart, pull the CEDAR out, give the prostaglandin shot, and then only the cows go back to the pen. We temporarily wean the calf for 72 hours. When we finish breeding, we let them get back together. So it's a pretty complicated system. The day that we would have MGA available for cows would be really good and easier to handle it. Then we use cleanup bulls that we were keeping them for 67 days. Now, as I said, we are reducing it to 45 days. Usually we AI, and the next day we put the bulls in there. We may get some pregnancies out of the bulls that may look like AI pregnancies, but our final goal is to get the higher number of females bred, so we can live with that. We use a 2% bull to cow ratio. If we have 100 cows in a pen, we assume that 50% of them will get bred no matter what when we do the AI. And then on the 50% remaining, we will use a 4%. So we will use 1 bull every 25 cows. As a whole, we are using 1 bull every 50 cows that we are exposing. So that's the 2% there. We breed in sound test every bull before the breeding season, and we trick test every bull even when they stay in our yard, they don't go away. We always trick test them. We don't want to have anything to do with trichomoniasis. It's a really, really expensive disease. And our goal is to keep our bulls on a body condition score around 5 or 6 or above. And the main reason for that is they don't have to walk so much around to find the cows that are in heat. But after the AI, on the second heat, it will be also synchronized. It will be a little farther apart, but in 2 or 3 days, all the cows that are not bred will get in heat. So those bulls, they have to work really hard, and they have to be in really good body condition to do that. The first year we did this, we had some problems on the AI, so we didn't get the 55% that we are getting now. We got around 40%. We had yearling bulls. So on the second heat, we had virgin bulls, really young ones, older cows, 60% of them getting in heat. I mean, those bulls, after 5 or 6 days, they were just looking for the gate to get out of the pen. I mean, they were done. I'm serious. I mean, they didn't want to do anything else with the cows. So we learned a couple of things there. We are using a little older bulls when we are working with mature cows. We are leaving only the yearlings for the heifers. And we are getting better results on the AI and better condition on the bulls. So a lot of things that we learned as we did things. Body condition score is, like Jason said, is a really important thing to look at. We are a little more aggressive on body condition. I want my mature cows calving with a body condition score of 6. I want them not fat, but fleshy, really in good shape. And the main reason for that, I want to have a really good breeding in the first AI and in the first heat after the AI. In order to have that, I should have a really short postpartum period, and the best way to get that is with a cow that is in really good condition. On heifers, I want to be around body condition score 6 when I'm breeding. If I'm lower than that, my AI numbers start going down, and my total pregnancy start going down. Another tool that we have is weaning. As I said, we do temporary weaning when we AI, and now we are doing early weaning. We were weaning everything around 5 months of age, and based on Jason's work on early weaning and comparing the amount of feed that we use on the cow and the calf and the cost, we decided to start testing the system and start early weaning. On the beginning, we use, as they did, the same ration that we use with the cows, we use it with the calves. And we got exactly to the same conclusion. There was no difference in the cost, there was no difference in the body condition, so we didn't see a lot of reason for doing it. After the experience with the guy on the calf ranch and seeing that we can produce more if we have a better ration for the calves, we changed the ration that we use for the crib feeding, and we changed the ration that we use for the weaned calves. Now we are using a lot higher concentration of protein. We go from 13.5% on the cow ration to 18.5% crude protein concentration on the ration, and a lot more energy also. What we are seeing now is that I can save around between $70 to $75 per cow per year by early weaning it. And the pounds that I get at the end are higher than the pounds that I got if I kept the calf with the mother until 5 months of age. The calves, they develop really well, they are highly efficient, feed to gain ratios of 4 are normal and really high daily gains. So we are pretty happy about the system, and we are trying to improve the way we do it. Preg checking is another really powerful tool for us. It allows us to determine what was AI bred, so it's part of our marketing and our cooperator system is to try to offer, okay, these are AI, they are going to calve in 15 days, these are bull bred, it's going to take them another 30 days to calve. So the guys can handle the calving of a replacement heifer a lot better. On the heifers that we are going to send outside, either selling them or on the cooperator system, we usually go and preg check 45 days after the AI, just to be exact about that those are AI. And then we also go ahead and 45 days after we pull the bulls, we preg check and we classify according to the size of the pregnancy. When you don't do this one here, when you preg check here, how accurate you are on determining which one are AI bred goes down. The farther we are within the pregnancy, the harder it is to determine the size of the calf. So when we want to be sure about who is AI, we do this. We go 45 days. When we are pulling the bulls, we are preg checking. When we are not so interested on that, we just do this one. 45 days after we pull the bull, we go ahead and preg check. Something that we change is this. On the beginning, we say, okay, any open female gets out of the system. We don't want her in here. But then we realize that one of our highest costs is producing that replacement heifer. So if we were getting everything out that was not bred, we were increasing the number of replacement heifers that we needed to put back into the system. Since we have 3 different seasons when we are breeding, if I say, okay, this is an open female, but I'm going to give her another opportunity, I don't have to wait a whole year to give her that opportunity and keep feeding her for doing nothing during a whole year. Like if something like a mature cow goes open in my May breeding, I can go in August and breed her again. If something goes open in August, I can go in December and breed it again. So the way we are doing it now is if the cow is a normal cow and doesn't have any previous history of being open, it will have another opportunity. If it is open in May, I breed in August. If she gets bred in August, great. If she doesn't, she goes to the packing plant. Everything that is a replacement heifer that don't get bred in the first breeding season, that one goes away. They have no reason for failing. They didn't have to raise a calf. They have been fed like they should. So if they fail, we don't pardon them. On the cows, it's a different deal. This is one of the points that we are still working. We feel like on the nutrition, on the reproductive side, we got to where we want to be. There's always something that we can improve, that we feel like we are getting to where we wanted to be when we started the process. Here is where we are still working. The main goal for any health program on a cow-calf operation is to prevent reproductive disease, to prevent pneumonia and diarrhea on the calves, and to increase the amount of antibodies that we put in the colostrum of the cows to give passive immunity to the calves. The concentration on a confined operation, the group of cattle that suffer the most are the calves. The cows, they don't have a problem. Heifers, bulls, we have been running around between 96 to 58 bulls, and we only lost in 4 years 3 bulls. Compared to any other situation on a pasture, I used to run bulls on big country, and we were losing 5 to 6 bulls every year for different reasons. I didn't see that on this system. I was expecting a lot more. I was expecting fighting between the bulls. It doesn't happen in the pen. It happens when we pull them out of the pen and they get into the feed alley or the cattle alley, and each one wants to show who is the toughest one, and they start fighting. So, but inside of the pen, we don't have any problem. What we are doing on our health problem is focusing on all these different agents. IBR, VBD, PI3, BRSB, all these viruses, they are all responsible for the bovine respiratory disease complex. We vaccinate everything. We vaccinate every cow, every heifer when they are developing 2 times with a modified live vaccine. We vaccinate every cow that is bred between 45 to 30 days before calving to increase the colostrum production. When you are using a modified live vaccine, if you vaccinated the heifers in the right way and you are revaccinated the cows within 12 months, you don't have any problem. You don't have any risk of losing calves. And it gives you a really high level of immunity in the colostrum. Lepto and Vibrio, they go in the same vaccine that we are using there. And then we give a Clostridium vaccine like any other. I mean, it's a 7-way Clostridium vaccine to prevent any clostridiosis. What we are doing now, and we are pretty aggressive, is working in here, vaccinating the cows. We are giving anti-scour vaccines to the cows. On the first calving season, they will receive 2 shots, 21 days apart. The last one at least 40 days before calving. And then every other year, they will receive 1 shot, 1 booster between 45 to 30 days before calving. What we are doing now also is we are vaccinating the calf at birth with these 2 viruses. We are applying a vaccine in the mouth when the calf is born. My guys, they will get in there, they will tag it, give them an ID, cut the navel, they will put a vaccine in the mouth, a vaccine in the nose, and they will castrate the calves. And we have had really good results with this. Vaccinating them at birth reduced our scour problem almost to nothing. And when we had an outbreak of diarrhea, it was a lot milder than before. On the beginning, we had neonatal diarrhea outbreaks that will get 50% of the calves that were on the ground. And we will start treating them, and the success of the treatment was really low. Right now, if we get any diarrhea, it doesn't affect more than 5% of the population, and we get in there, treat them, and they get over it really easily. So it reduces the morbidity and reduces how strong the diarrhea is on the animal. I'm starting to work on this too. I'm starting to use a vaccine, trying to prevent the effect of manhemia on the calves. We are not going to use it on the cows to produce more colostrum because there is not really a lot of information on that. But we are going to start vaccinating the calf early in life against manhemia hemolytica. We are having now some problems between the 60 and 90 days of age with pneumonia. We got out of the scour problem, and now we are stepping into the pneumonia problem. So we are starting to work on that. And this is an agent that there is no a good vaccine for it, and the incidence is going up. So we are trying to find a treatment for them, and we are having some issues. What you're going to see by a mycoplasma pneumonia, you will see animals between 60 to 90 days of age that will start getting sick, and then as they progress in the disease, they will start having problems in the joints, getting infected and you will see them walking really funny. So we are working on that, trying to find how we can compete against him. It's not susceptible to a lot of antibiotics, and there's no vaccine for it, so it's kind of a complicated deal. BVD PI determination persists in infected animals. On a concentrated system like we have, if we have an animal that is PI for BVD, it will be a mess. Any animal that is persistently infected with BVD will keep shedding viruses during his whole life. And if you put that animal beside a cow that is within the 3 months of pregnancy, the virus will go through the placenta, get into the fetus, and that fetus will be PI infected because the immune system is not developed yet in the fetus, and it will recognize that virus like part of the body, and it will not compete against it. So if that calf survives, his whole life will keep shedding BVD virus through the whole system. So we are pretty careful about checking every animal that we buy, checking every bull that we receive, and checking every replacement that we keep for that. We have tested kind of 15,000, we find only 3. But those 3 could make a mess in a system like this. Facilities, and here we are. One of the topics of this meeting is buildings for doing cow-calf operation in this part of the country. And in the part of the country that we are, it doesn't make much sense. As I said, our winters are milder and our summers are drier, so you don't get a lot out of that. But in weather like this, I think it's a really important tool. And we find out that all these things here that look to be okay on a normal feeder for a cow-calf operation, they are not. We have to modify our fences, we have to modify our feed banks, we have to work on our water tanks. Calves start drinking water around 2 days of age. And a normal water tank on a feed yard is too high and too deep for a calf. So we had to put dirt around the water tank. We had to raise the level of water up to the limit in order to allow that calf to get to the water. Windbreaks. We didn't have any windbreak in that area. It's a big deal when you have a baby on the ground. Have to develop crib feeding structures to allow the calf to eat. Our processing facilities, we thought that we had really nice facilities until we start running 60 days old calves through it. And then everybody in 2 seconds get mad and frustrated and want to go home. So it took us a while. That's the kind of fencing that we are using. It's a normal feed yard fence, but we add a net so the calf cannot crawl in between pens and move around. Some people say that they don't have that problem. If we don't do that, we will have orphans all over the place. The calves, they want to wander around and they are really good getting out, but they are never good going back to the same pen. So that system works really well. Those are the kind of windbreaks that we are building. It's just a 2x6 piece of wood and tin that we put together. And these are the shades that we use for the calves. The height is a lot lower than what should allow a cow to step in, and it's a really good place for the calves. As you can see, that's in the middle of the summer. All the calves are underneath the shade, and all the cows are nearby. We have some cows that think that they deserve the shade. As you can see, even when it's small, I mean, they find a way to get in there. On the feed banks, we added, in the places where only the cows need to eat, we needed to raise the inside and lower the top to leave this window so the cow can eat, can put the head in there and eat, but the calf, when it's small, it will not have enough height to crawl into the feed bank. And when they are bigger, this gap is too small for them to get the body through. So that keeps the calf from getting into the feed bank. Personnel, that's one of the biggest issues everywhere. When on our way back here, we came by a place in a town like 50 miles west of here to see a processing facility. And the guy has everything automated. I mean, he can be at the chute and with a remote control handle the tab on the back, open the gates on the back, close the gates on the back. And I asked him why he was doing that, and he said that he couldn't find good help to work. So he was getting everything as automated as he can to reduce the labor need and to reduce accidents. And the same thing is happening to us down there. And the kind of people that you need for this is really different. As I said on the beginning, we thought that a normal Feedyard cowboy will be able to handle a cow-calf operation. The mentality is totally different. You need a guy that has compassion for the calf, really likes the operation, don't have a problem to be there at 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and next morning be there at 6 o'clock ready to start. And one thing that I talk always with the other manager is, on a normal feed year, we set the schedule. We tell the steer when we are going to feed them, when we are going to pull them, when we are going to doctor them. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody goes home. On this system, the cow set the schedule. You don't tell them when they are going to calve. You don't tell a calf when it's going to get sick. You have to be there a lot more during some time of the year. But on the other hand, you also need the speed, the record-keeping capacity that the guys have on a feed year, and the schedule of there's something that we have to do every day to finish the day. The day is not over until we don't do those things. And sometimes on a ranch, we are used to say, okay, we don't finish today, we do it tomorrow. So you need a combination between those two things, and it's not easy to find it. What I found up to now, I'm having a lot more luck with young guys that like cow-calf operation. They don't have the opportunity to go and work out in big ranches. There are not many, and they don't pay a lot. And we can pay them better, and they can be involved in a high-frequency, high-intensity system, but also taking care of babies. So up to now it's working. I'm getting to the point where I have a group of people that understand what we are trying to do, and they understand the commitment that they need. But as Jason said, the management that you need on this system is a lot higher than on a traditional system. Everything happens a lot faster, and the cows depend on us for everything: water, feed, care. It's not like in a normal pasture situation where many of those things are left to the cow to take care of. So the management intensity is a lot higher. During this almost 4 years that we have been doing this, we learned several things. The first thing we learned is we need to be flexible. At the end of the day, we all need to make money. We are all making a living on this. And like you all know, we can go from a $2,500 replacement heifer last year to a $1,600, $1,700 replacement heifer now. And the same happened with our mature cows. So the variation on equity that we have on this business is amazing. So we need to be flexible to be able to take advantage of that and be careful how we step into the business. In 2014, we bred 4,500 heifers. I had them, we got like 95% pregnancy on them. I had them all ready. I was so happy. I was getting up on my numbers. And suddenly the guys from Amarillo say, okay, give me a report on your equity, how much it changed from the moment we start buying these heifers to today. And we found out that we had duplicated the value of the cow. So we sit down and we say, okay, what do we do? And the decision was, okay, let's sell the heifers. It's a good opportunity for us. There's a lot of people out there that need heifers. Let's provide the market with what they need. And we decided to sell the heifers, and I went from 7,000 cows to 3,000 in 2 months. But we make a profit, a really good one, and that allows us to keep growing now. Now we are getting replacement heifers bought for $700 less than what we were paying them. So it would have been really silly to keep those heifers in that moment. So we need to keep that flexibility and at the same time a long-term commitment that we are growing our herd. But we need to be able to take opportunity of those opportunities that show up. Limit feeding is a really good system. It works great. Allow us to provide the nutrients to the cows that they need without wasting any feed. And we can handle that up to the gram of how much we need to feed them to get to the goal that we want. Bank space, really careful about that. The square footage that we need to use per cow, that is more determined on how big your pens are. We are using around 700 to 800 square feet per cow. It's a different system than if you go underneath a roof. We learn what kind of facility we need. We know that our estro synchronization and breeding program works really well, and we learn how to handle lightweight calves. What we are still working is on these two topics, and this one is still the most important one. I'm starting to work on this one a lot harder, but this one is the one that could make a deal breaker. When you concentrate cows, the health of the calf gets more and more important. All the vaccination program that you do, all the care that you take of that calf when it's born is going to pay on calf health and calf growth. If you get a pneumonia outbreak and you get a high morbidity, then you have a lot of chronics, and the production of those calves will go down. The mortality can be really high if you don't take care of different details like concentration, vaccination, the way you feed the calf when it's a young calf. So we're still struggling here. We are running around, this year, we were running around 16% death loss on calf. This last year we ran around 8%, and the goal is trying to get to around 5 to 6% between preg checking and weaning. So we still need to find some answers here. On the genetic program, we are starting to work on genomic determination and a long-term vision of what we want to do. On the beginning, what we were trying to do is just to prove that we can do it. It didn't make any sense to think on what genetic 10-year program we will have if we didn't know if we would be able to make it work. We would be wasting our time. We had other priorities then. Those are calves that were weaned between 90 to 110 days. That's the day when we were shipping them. And those are the same calves in one of our yards 3 months later. Oops, sorry. As you can see, we are using a lot of shadow leg crosses, terminal crosses on our Angus calves. Those calves that you see there, most of them were killed between 14 to 16 months of age. They weigh 1475 to 1495. The daily gain was around 4.6, 4.7, and the conversion was like 5.2, 5.1. That cross, they are eating machines. And these ones, the stray Angus, we killed them between 16 and 18 months of age. They weigh 1470 to 1450. Daily gain was around 3.8, and conversion was a little higher, 5.4, 5.5. The difference between this one and this one had 75% choice, and on this one we didn't get more than 35% choice. So you get a lot more growth on this animal than on this one, but you don't get the quality. The way the market is paying today, we go with this one every day, because the spread between select and choice is so small that it doesn't really make a difference. Health on both groups, the morbidity was almost less than 0.5%, and the mortality was less than 0.1%. What we see in the future, we are pretty optimistic about the system. We think that we can keep expanding. As you saw yesterday on Kelly's presentation, our goal is to expand our herd outside and also expand our herd inside. We are trying to find new facilities where we can keep growing, and we will follow both avenues at the same time. But we see a lot of technologies that will make our life a lot easier and will allow us to do a lot of things. There are some that we have them right now, like in vitro fertilization, embryo transfer. Some others, like sex semen, it's going to be available. There are some there, but they are not so good yet. But these three things here allow us to manage the reproduction in a totally different way. We can increase the quality of the animal that we get through in vitro fertilization and embryo transfer. We can change the progeny that we get through using sex semen. If I have a group of cows that I tested them for genomics and they look like cows that are going to be high growth kind of animals compared to others that will be more maternal, I can use a Charolais bull semen just to produce steers out of those cows and increase from 50 to close to 80% steers on the calf crop. On the other hand, if I have a line of cows that are more maternal and they will look better in the future to go outside, I can use sex semen to produce heifers out of them with a line of bulls that will be more on the maternal side than on the finishing side. Gene manipulation, that's another thing that is coming. The cost of doing that is going low so high, so rapidly that it's amazing. Now there are people working on detecting the gene that is related to the receptor of the leukotoxin of the manhemia in the lungs. So what they are trying to do is trying to develop a line of steers or animals that will not have those receptors in the cells, so the leukotoxin will not affect those individuals and they will make them resistant to manhemia. So what we can see in the future is amazing. Individual ID, movement trackers, GPS systems, remote sensors. There is a lot going on that. Allflex is testing some systems that they monitor the cows according to how much they walk, how much they ruminate, how much they move, and they can determine when they are going to be really close to calving. So you imagine having a big group of heifers calving and having those monitors, and they will let you know when they are getting to the calving time, and so you don't have to be all night long just watching them. It will allow a lot different management of the animals. Drones, I mean, that's another tool to see the animals, to observe the animals in a different way, and the facility of data collection and management that we have today is amazing. My guys, they go around on a gator and a John Deere side by side when they are checking the cows calving. When they see an animal that just finished calving, they go in there, they process the calf, and on the cell phone they have an app where they record everything that they are doing with the calf. And the second they finish, I can see that on the computer on my office, and it's free. You don't have to pay anything to anybody. So it's amazing what we have coming on. This is kind of our view of what we are doing and our story of what we are doing. So if you have any questions,